Words of Jewish origin in the Quran. This is Aben al-Hurriya, son of freedom. Purpose of the study: to examine some of the Jewish vocabulary in the Quran and unpack what it means for the divine origin of the Quran. Argument of the study. The Quran is held to be of divine origin in Islamic doctrine, that it came from an eternal preserved tablet. Islamic doctrine teaches that Allah specifically chose Arabic as his preferred language through which to convey his revelation because Arabic is a perfect language or is the most rich in meaning. Yet we can identify at least 14 words in the Quran which are Jewish in origin, which were transliterated from Hebrew into Arabic and incorporated into the Quran. When we consider all the possible explanations for this, it becomes clear that the most reasonable hypothesis is that Muhammad borrowed Jewish vocabulary and incorporated it into his Quran. Therefore, this should be taken as strong evidence that the Quran is not a divine book, that it is the creation of Muhammad or the early Islamic community. Divine origin of the Quran. The standard Islamic account of the origin of the Quran is that in about 610 CE, Muhammad was confronted on the night of power by the angel Gabriel, who squeezed him 3 times, commanding him to read. Here are the references. Though confessing that he could not read, Muhammad began to receive regular revelations through Gabriel. This went on for 22 years. The Quran was collected on parchments, bark, skins, stones, and on the hearts of and memories of men. It was collected up shortly after Muhammad's death and written down by Sa'id ibn Thabit under the Caliph Uthman. The Quran teaches that it is a copy from a preserved tablet from heaven. I'm not reading the references off the screen, so if you are listening to this, just know that there are references that you could look at on a screen if you need to. Further passages attesting to the divine origin of the Quran are the following, which I won't read to you. Why an Arabic Quran? Quran 12:2 says, "We have sent it down as an Arabic Quran so that you may understand." This would indicate that Allah specifically targeted the Arabs. But we can identify at least 14 Hebrew words in the Quran. These Arabic words are transliterations of originally Hebrew words. They are, and I won't read the references, Tabut, which means ark. This refers to the ark used to carry the baby Moses in the Nile. Torah, which means the law or Pentateuch. Jannatu Aden, which is paradise. Jahannam, which is hell. Abar, which is teacher. Darasa, which is exegesis. Rabbani, meaning teacher. Sabbat, which is Sabbath or day of rest or Saturday. Sakinat, which is presence of God, also pronounced Shakina. Tagut, which is error. Furqan, which is deliverance or redemption. Ma'un, refuge. Masani, repetition. Malakut, which is government. Question: why does the Quran contain transliterated Hebrew words? One of the claims made by Muslim spokespersons is that Allah chose the Arabic language because it is particularly rich in meanings. Here is an example of testimony regarding Arabic as the choice of language for the Quran. Dear brothers, peace be on all of you. Arabic is a unique language in the world which is so vast that it can contain 3,000 words for sword. I don't know what that word means or what word he's referring to. I think it's just a typo. 500 words for lion, over 70 words for regarding moon, etc. It is a versatile language whose words can deliver wide-ranging meanings full of depth and yet not contradictory. The Arabs were so proud of their language and its rich context that they would call non-Arabs ajmis, or dumb, or with no language, or with no voice, or with no verbal expression. See for yourself how many meanings can be attributed for the word ajmi. So once Muhammad, who was an illiterate, delivered Quran, Arabs were shocked that how come this man could produce a book of such caliber. That is why Allah challenged the unbelievers to bring forth even one verse of such a caliber if they say that these are the words of Muhammad and not God. They all failed. This is why Quran is the only miracle given to Muhammad. Thirdly, Muhammad was sent to land of Arabia, and their people spoke Arabic, and if it would have revealed in Hebrew or Greek, it would have been useless for the Arabs. So this is from a person in Pakistan, and I'm not deriding his poor English. I'm sure English is not his first language, so I'm not making fun of that. But I want you to see that here is a typical testimony that Arabic is chosen specifically by Allah because it is thought that Arabic is a very rich language. And also, here's another interesting thing that he includes in his statement, and that is that he thinks that Muhammad didn't perform any miracles, and the Quran is the only miracle he performed. That's not quite true, because as I have shown you in other videos, Muhammad, my video on Muhammad, prophet or tyrant, there is testimony to the effect that Muhammad performed a few miracles. So it's not that the Quran is the only miracle, but the Quran is believed to be a miracle by Muslims. That's kind of orthodox belief in Islamic theology. Okay, question: why does the Quran contain transliterated Hebrew words? If the Quran is inspired as it claims, and if Arabic is so rich a language, and if the Quran was etched on a preserved tablet from eternity as the Islamic sources teach, and if Allah is all-wise such that he could find an appropriate Arabic word to express every needed idea, then why would the Quran borrow at least 14 words from the language of the Jews to express itself? Does Allah need Hebrew words to express himself? Allah in many places curses the Jews. Okay, so now I'm going to just step through 4 slides showing you testimony that is evidence of anti-Semitism in the Quran. I'm not going to read them all out. It's harsh to even listen to, I think. But here's slide 1. You can look these up and verify that these are true. Slide 2. Slide 3. And slide 4. So I've given you about 13 references of anti-Semitism in the Quran. So why does Allah need Jewish words to express himself? If Allah in so many places curses the Jews, then why does Allah need Jewish words to express himself? Excuse 1. Well, Allah used the Jewish vocabulary because he was trying to reach the Jews of the Arabian Peninsula. Denial 2. The Jewish words you are citing are not really Hebrew words at all. They are in fact Arabic words, and you are attributing them to Hebrew sources. You are making it up. Or my explanation would be that Muhammad's fabricated revelation, the Quran, is a hodgepodge of various religious sources of his time and place, when it is not just made up. Allah, his sock puppet, had nothing to do with it. Possible explanations for Hebrew vocabulary. Well, one explanation would be Allah knows best. I suggest that this is a non-answer. It is on the level of the Wizard of Oz screaming from behind the curtain, "Don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain." Or the Quran is trying to show its continuity with the Torah. But if Arabic is a richer language, couldn't any idea be better expressed in Arabic and in a way more understandable to an Arab? In other words, by using Hebrew words transliterated into Arabic, Arabs would have to be taught those foreign words to get Allah's meaning. That wouldn't make any sense. Or the Quran is not entirely inspired or is not inspired at all. Muhammad just borrowed traditions from the Jews of the Arabian Peninsula. This is one of the sources of his vocabulary. And it's pretty well known that Muhammad, he didn't have much knowledge of the Pentateuch or of the Hebrew Bible, but he did have a lot of access to Jewish traditions, mostly on an oral level. He was in conversation with them. Hebrew vocabulary suggests Hebrew sources. This is the simplest explanation of the Hebrew vocabulary of the Quran. Muhammad is known to have been a gatherer and teller of religious traditions, and he spent a great deal of time talking with the Jews. And he spent a great deal of energy trying to win over the Jews. This suggests that there is an unspecified number of traditions in the Quran that are appropriated from Jewish sources and not of divine origin. The contents of the Quran can be accounted for on naturalistic grounds. This suggests that the Quran does not carry the authority that it claims to have, and so Muslims are free to walk away from their bondage to the Quran. What should a Muslim do with this information? If a Muslim is hardcore, no amount of counterfactual information will persuade the Muslim that he is being deceived by the Quran. But if a Muslim is still in touch with his humanity, or if he has some humanistic training, or if he has a scientific mind, this information should disturb him. I challenge the Muslim to look up these references and trace the etymology of these 14 words and verify that indeed they are of Jewish or Hebrew origin. Let this study be just one more data point to enable you to enter into critical doubt that is the beginning of your escape from Islam. Words of Jewish origin in the Quran. This is Aben al-Hurriya, Son of Freedom. Thank you for listening.